The alien fleets arrived without warning, filling the sky with dark shapes that blocked the sun. Their ships moved in perfect lines, slow and careful, like they were following a map written long ago. On their screens, Earth was already measured and labeled. To them, this was going to be a short and clean war. They believed war had rules that everyone must follow. A war must begin with a clear signal. A leader must speak for the whole planet. Armies must move in lines. Cities must wait. Civilians must stay quiet and still. Fear must spread in a straight and easy way. That was how war always worked for them. But on Earth, nothing happened the way they expected. There was no single message sent to the aliens. No world leader stepped forward to surrender or threaten. No loud speech echoed across the planet. Instead, millions of small things began to happen at the same time, in places the aliens did not watch closely. In one crowded city, Alex Morgan stood in a narrow street between tall buildings. The power was out. The shops were closed. People were scared, but they were not running. Alex had no uniform and no title. He was just a delivery driver who knew the streets well. He knocked on doors and talked to people face to face. He asked who had food, who had water, and who needed help. Old neighbors shared cans and bread. Young people carried boxes up dark stairs. Someone wrote lists on paper because phones no longer worked well. Alex did not wait for permission. He did not think about war rules. He only thought about tomorrow. Across the city, Claire Adams sat in a small room filled with wires, radios, and old machines. She had worked with communication systems before, but never like this. Satellites were failing. Networks were silent. The alien ships filled the air with strange signals that broke modern tools. So Claire went backward instead of forward. She used old radios, simple codes, and short messages. She taught others how to listen, how to pass information without saying too much. People shared news by word, by paper, and by memory. Messages moved slowly, but they moved. The aliens watched from above. Their sensors searched for command centers. They searched for generals, capitals, and control rooms. They expected chaos after the first strike. Instead, they saw something strange. The cities did not go silent. They also did not panic the way the aliens predicted. People gathered in small groups. Lights appeared and disappeared at random. Movement did not follow lines or patterns. When one area went dark, another became active. When one road was blocked, people used side streets and footpaths. There was no center to destroy. Alien analysts met in quiet chambers aboard their ships. Data flowed across their screens. Predictions failed again and again. Human behavior did not match any known model. "Where is their leader?" one commander asked. "There are many," another replied. "Or none." On Earth, news spread slowly but clearly. People understood that help would not come from one place. They understood that waiting could be dangerous. So they acted. In small towns, farmers shared fuel and crops. Teachers turned schools into shelters. Mechanics fixed vehicles with spare parts. Doctors trained volunteers instead of guarding knowledge. No one announced these choices. They simply happened. Alex saw this every day. One morning he helped move food. In the afternoon he helped clear rubble. At night he sat with strangers and listened to their fears. He noticed something important. People were scared, but they were also calm in a quiet way. They trusted each other more than they trusted plans. Claire noticed the same thing through her messages. She heard many voices, not one. Short reports came in from different places. None of them asked for orders. They shared what worked and what failed. Others copied the ideas and changed them. The aliens tried to respond. They sent warnings written in cold and perfect language. They announced deadlines and rules of engagement. They demanded a formal reply. No reply came. Instead, human activity shifted again. When aliens watched one region, people there slowed down. When attention moved away, action returned somewhere else. It was not planned by a single mind. It happened because people talked, learned, and adapted. The aliens did not understand this kind of war. To them, war was a system. To humans, it was life continuing under pressure. One alien observer noted something unusual. Humans did not separate soldiers and civilians in the expected way. A person who carried food in the morning might repair machines in the afternoon and guide others at night. Roles changed often. No role stayed fixed. This broke another rule. The longer the fleet stayed, the more records filled with warnings. Human responses were inefficient but effective. Slow but resilient. Weak in structure, strong in outcome. Alex never thought about aliens watching him. He only thought about keeping people fed and calm. Claire never thought she was changing the course of a war. She only wanted messages to reach the right ears. Yet far above them, the alien commanders grew uneasy. They had planned for armies. They had planned for fear. They had planned for obedience. They had not planned for millions of small choices made without asking. And as the world kept moving in quiet human ways, the aliens began to understand that this war would not be short, clean, or simple at all. The alien fleets changed their plan. After days of watching, they decided humans were delaying the real fight. In every war they had ever studied, breaking leadership ended resistance. So they searched harder. They traced signals. They watched movement. They chose targets that looked important from above. At dawn, the strikes began. Tall buildings that once carried signals collapsed into dust. Control centers went dark. Roads cracked and burned. The aliens expected the world to freeze. They expected silence, fear, and surrender to follow in a clear line. It did not happen. In one city hospital, the lights went out and alarms stopped. The building shook and people screamed for a moment. Then the noise faded, replaced by quick voices and moving feet. Daniel Wright pushed open a storage door and stared at the shelves inside. Boxes of medical supplies stood in neat rows, waiting. No one had told him what to do. There was no order, no message, no permission. So he acted. Daniel loaded boxes onto a small cart and pushed it down dark hallways. He moved past broken glass and fallen wires. When elevators failed, he used the stairs. When doors jammed, he forced them open with others who joined him without being asked. Outside, he found a truck with its keys still inside. The driver nodded once and helped load it. They did not talk much. They did not need to. The truck rolled through back streets instead of main roads. When one path was blocked, they turned without arguing. Daniel delivered supplies to clinics, shelters, and homes where people waited quietly. He did not feel brave. He felt busy. In another part of the city, Emily Parker stood in a damaged power station. The main systems were ruined. Screens were dead. Cables hung loose like broken limbs. Many workers looked around in silence, unsure where to begin. Emily broke the silence. She gathered people and spoke in simple words. She showed them how to check small parts first. She taught them how to use tools by hand when machines failed. She did not promise quick results. She promised progress. People listened. They worked slowly and carefully. Power returned to one building, then another. Not enough to light the city, but enough to keep water running and lights on in shelters. The aliens watched again. Their sensors showed damage but also movement. The strikes had hit hard, yet human activity spread instead of shrinking. Where leaders should have been missing, new voices appeared. Where command lines should have broken, new paths formed. Alien commanders met again. Their screens filled with reports marked as errors. Leadership collapse confirmed, one said. Then why do they continue? Another asked. The model said humans should be confused. The model said fear should slow them. Instead, human behavior became less predictable. Small groups formed and dissolved. People shared tasks without waiting. They fought only when they had no other choice. When they did fight, they did it fast and then disappeared. Humans avoided open battles. They did not hold ground. They did not defend symbols. They defended people. When alien forces advanced into one area, humans left quietly. When the aliens moved on, humans returned and repaired what they could. Nothing stayed still long enough to control. Daniel noticed this pattern without naming it. One day he delivered supplies to a clinic. The next day the clinic had moved to a school. On the third day it moved again. Each time people already knew where to go. No message explained it. No order confirmed it. It spread because people trusted each other. Emily saw the same thing. Someone fixed a small generator using scrap parts. Others copied the idea. The design changed as it moved from place to place. There was no perfect version, only useful ones. The aliens tried to predict the changes. They ran simulations again and again. Each time the outcome failed. Humans did not repeat actions in the same way. Success did not lead to repetition. Failure did not stop attempts. This broke another rule. Alien war depended on patterns. Humans depended on learning. In one command chamber, voices rose in sharp tones. One commander blamed poor data. Another blamed human irrationality. A third suggested the war itself was flawed. They had never fought a species that refused to behave. On Earth, the pressure grew heavier. Losses were real. Fear existed. People cried when they were alone. But when others were near, they moved forward. Daniel collapsed onto a chair late one night, hands shaking from exhaustion. Someone placed water beside him without speaking. Emily slept on the floor of the station, using her jacket as a pillow. She woke when someone else shook her gently and asked for help. No one asked who was in charge. The aliens sent another message demanding surrender. It named targets and rules. It promised safety in exchange for order. The message spread. People read it. Then they kept working. The aliens began to understand something they had never recorded before. Breaking leadership did not break humans. Pressure did not force surrender. Uncertainty did not cause collapse. Instead, it created motion. As the war continued, alien commanders faced a quiet truth. The more they tried to control the fight, the less control they had. Humanity was not winning by strength or speed. They were winning by refusing to stand still long enough to be defeated. The pressure did not stop. The alien fleet stayed in the sky, watching and striking when they thought they saw order forming. Each day felt heavier than the last. Yet humanity did not slow down. Instead, it changed again. Old rules no longer mattered. Before the invasion, people spoke about war as something far away, something handled by soldiers and leaders. Now that idea faded. War was no longer separate from daily life. It was part of waking up, part of working, part of helping others survive. Cities stopped acting like separate places. Roads, rails, and rivers became shared lines instead of borders. Food moved freely. Tools moved freely. Information moved freely even when it had to travel by hand. In one transport center, Michael Turner stood over a large paper map spread across a table. The map was old and torn, but it worked. Lines were drawn and erased every day. Sometimes every hour. Michael did not follow fixed routes anymore. He changed paths based on damage, danger, and need. If a bridge fell, he found another way. If a road became unsafe, he closed it without asking. Drivers trusted him because yesterday's choices had worked. Today's choice might be wrong tomorrow, and Michael accepted that. He spoke in short sentences. This road is clear now. That area needs water. Do not go there today. He never promised safety. He promised effort. Drivers nodded and moved. Outside the city, farmers loaded trucks with crops they once sold for money. Now they gave food away without asking who would pay. They trusted that someone somewhere would help them later. Engineers fixed machines with parts that did not match. Teachers taught children in shelters, using chalk and paper when screens were gone. Lessons were simple. Reading, counting, sharing. Life did not pause for war. Anna Lewis understood this better than most. She worked in a large shelter filled with families, elders, and children. Fear lived there, but so did routine. Anna believed routine mattered. Every morning she gathered people and spoke to them. She did not lie. She did not soften the truth. She told them when areas were lost. She told them when help would be late. She told them when the danger was close. Some people cried when they heard her words. Some became angry. But they listened. Anna noticed something important. When people knew the truth, they made better choices. They prepared. They shared. They stayed calm longer. False hope broke faster than hard truth. The aliens watched these patterns with growing concern. Their reports showed cities still functioning not as machines but as living systems. There were no clean lines between civilian and fighter, between worker and defender. A farmer might hide people one day and guide transport the next. A teacher might teach in the morning and repair equipment at night. This was not how war was meant to be. Alien doctrine required separation. Clear roles. Clear phases. Act. Defend. Control. Humans ignored all of it. Michael adjusted routes again after a sudden strike damaged a key highway. He did not wait for confirmation. He trusted reports from drivers and walkers. Within hours, movement shifted. Supplies arrived slower, but they arrived. The aliens targeted a power station the next day. Engineers rebuilt parts of it using scraps. Power returned in small areas. The aliens struck again. Humans repaired again differently. Nothing stayed fixed. In alien command chambers, frustration grew. Predictive systems failed faster than they could be updated. Human behavior blended too many factors. Emotion, memory, trust, fear, hope. These could not be measured cleanly. One observer noted that humans did not enter war mode. They lived through it. They adapted inside it. That made control impossible. Anna faced her hardest moment when she had to announce that a nearby shelter was gone. People she knew had been there. She spoke clearly, her voice steady even as her hands shook. There was silence after she finished. Then people stood up and moved. Some hugged each other. Some packed supplies. Some volunteered to help new arrivals. No one asked her why the war was happening. They asked what needed to be done next. Michael saw similar reactions when routes failed. He told drivers the truth. This path is dangerous now. Some were scared. Some refused. Others stepped forward. Choice mattered more than command. The aliens tried to enforce order one last time. They marked zones. They set rules. They announced safe areas and forbidden areas. They expected humans to gather, to obey, to settle into patterns. Humans did not. They moved through zones. Around zones. Sometimes they ignored them completely. Safety was decided by people on the ground, not by words from the sky. Alien records filled with notes about human blending behavior. War and life were not separate states. Humans did not switch between them. They carried both at once. This broke the final rule. War was supposed to be something controlled, limited, and clean. Humanity made it messy, shared, and deeply human. As days passed, the aliens began to understand the truth they feared. They could destroy structures but not connections. They could break systems but not trust. They could apply pressure, but pressure only caused change, not collapse. Michael erased another line on his map and drew a new one. Anna spoke to a room full of tired faces and told them the truth again. Far above, the alien fleets hovered in silence. They had never faced a species that turned war into shared life. And for the first time, they began to doubt that victory, as they understood it, was even possible. The alien fleets changed their approach once more. Control had failed. Prediction had failed. So they turned to pressure shaped like order. Messages were sent across the planet. They came in clear and cold language. Zones were marked. Deadlines were announced. Traps were hidden in places humans were likely to use. The aliens believed that time limits and fear would force people into mistakes. They believed humans would rush. Humans did not rush. Instead, people slowed down. They read the warnings. They listened to reports. Then they waited, watched, and chose carefully. No single strike or victory mattered more than staying alive together. Survival came first. In a coastal city near broken highways, James Collins stood on the roof of a low building and watched the horizon. Smoke rose in the distance. The sea was quiet. The streets below were filled with people moving in small groups. James had no rank and no uniform. He had once worked as a ferry operator. He knew how to move people safely, and that was enough. When alien traps were discovered near main roads, James helped plan evacuations using side paths, water routes, and walking lines. He did not give orders. He asked questions. Who knows this area? Who can guide families? Who can carry children? People stepped forward. Evacuations happened in stages. No crowds. No panic. Small groups moved, rested, and moved again. If one path felt unsafe, they turned back without shame. James walked with the last group each time. The aliens watched their traps remain unused. Inland, Laura Bennett worked among damaged homes and broken streets. Attacks continued nearby, but waiting for peace was not an option. People needed shelter now. Laura helped communities rebuild while danger still existed. She taught people how to brace walls quickly, how to cover broken roofs, how to share tools. Repairs were simple and rough, meant to last only long enough. That was enough. Children handed nails. Elders watched for warnings. Neighbors worked side by side. When attacks came close, work paused. When the noise faded, work continued. The aliens found this confusing. In their wars, rebuilding came after victory. For humans, rebuilding happened during survival. Traps were placed near water sources. Humans tested them carefully before using them. When one source became dangerous, people shared what they had and moved to another. Deadlines were announced. Humans ignored them. They did not challenge them. They simply refused to let alien time decide their actions. Alien observers recorded rising delays and missed engagements. Their systems flagged human behavior as inefficient. Yet losses did not rise as expected. The reason was simple. Humans did not seek winning moments. They sought safe moments. James learned of a planned trap near a major exit road. Instead of warning everyone loudly, he quietly changed routes. By morning, the road was empty. The trap waited for no one. Laura helped rebuild a shelter that had been damaged twice already. Some asked why they should fix it again. She answered honestly. Because people need it tonight. That was enough. Alien commanders argued again. Some wanted stronger force. Others warned that increased pressure only made humans adapt faster. Their models showed a strange trend. The more rules they set, the more humans ignored the idea of rules altogether. One observer made a careful note. Humans were not breaking rules to win faster. They were breaking rules to protect each other. This mattered. In alien war logic, protection followed victory. For humans, protection was the reason for action. Deadlines passed without surrender. Traps remained unused. Zones stayed unstable. Humans moved through the world like water, finding cracks and paths that were never meant to be used. Cooperation replaced command. Patience replaced speed. James stood at the edge of the city one evening, watching the last evacuation group disappear into trees. He felt tired but steady. No victory had been declared. No enemy defeated. Yet hundreds were safe. Laura sat on a broken wall, sharing bread with neighbors after a long day of work. The shelter behind them stood, uneven but strong enough. Above them all, the alien fleets hovered in silence. Their records filled with unfamiliar language. Human behavior no longer fit any known category of war. It was not conquest. It was not defense. It was something else entirely. A war fought not to win but to endure together. And the aliens began to understand that this kind of enemy could not be defeated by force alone. The alien fleets did not announce their decision. One day the sky was filled with silent shapes and heavy shadows. The next day those shapes began to move away. Ships that had hovered for weeks slowly turned and pulled back into the dark. No final threat was sent. No demand was made. They simply left. At first people did not celebrate. They watched carefully. They waited. Humanity had learned patience. It had learned not to trust sudden calm. But the calm remained. Alien records, sealed far beyond Earth, told a different story. The final reports did not describe humans as strong or advanced. They did not speak of superior weapons or clever tactics. They used one word again and again. Choice. Humans were marked as dangerous not because of what they could build or destroy, but because they could choose differently each time pressure was applied. They could not be forced into patterns. They could not be shaped by fear alone. On Earth, healing began quietly. There were no victory parades. No loud speeches. People were too tired for that. They began instead with small things. Clearing streets. Fixing roofs. Checking on neighbors who had gone silent. Cities rebuilt slowly, not in straight lines but in careful steps. Some buildings were left broken on purpose, reminders of what had happened. Others were repaired just enough to be useful. Schools reopened in simple ways. Some classes met in half-damaged buildings. Others met outdoors. Children returned with quiet voices and wide eyes. Teachers focused on listening as much as teaching. Life did not return to what it had been. It became something new. Mark Evans stood on a hill above his town, watching workers clear debris below. He had once worked in an office that no longer existed. Now he helped where he could. He carried supplies. He repaired tools. He listened to stories. Beside him stood Emma Brooks, her hands in her jacket pockets, eyes lifted toward the sky. The sky was empty. No shadows moved across it. No strange lights burned above the clouds. It was just blue with slow-moving white clouds. They stood there in silence for a long time. Emma spoke first. "Do you think they will come back?" Mark thought before answering. "Maybe," he said. "But not the same way." Emma nodded. She believed that. Around them, people worked together without being told. Some laughed softly. Others worked in silence. Grief still existed, but it no longer controlled every moment. Records of the war spread slowly. Not official reports, but shared stories. How neighbors helped each other. How strangers became family. How fear was faced together. Humanity did not talk about winning. They talked about surviving. The truth became clear as time passed. Humans had not defeated the aliens by mastering war. They had defeated the idea that war had to be fought by fixed rules. They refused to choose control over care. They refused to value victory more than people. They refused to stop adapting. That refusal changed everything. As the sun set, Mark and Emma watched light fade across the land. Fires burned for warmth, not defense. Roads reopened. Voices carried through the air, calm and human. Far away, beyond sight and memory, alien fleets traveled home, carrying records filled with warnings. A species that chooses together cannot be conquered. And under the quiet sky, humanity continued forward, not as rulers of war, but as survivors who had learned the power of choice.